They opened fire and they started shooting everybody. One of them aimed his gun towards me and he fired at me. It was completely covered in blood and there were dead bodies around me. When I went to the hospital, they put me with the dead bodies because, my dad was standing there and just praying and hoping that, my name is not on the list. I was told by my doctors that I was shot 8 times. 132 children had lost their lives in that incident.
In today's world, there are so many incredible and extraordinary stories of survival. Stories about fighting against the odds, overcoming the toughest situations and never giving up. Stories that need to be told and heard. Stories that can change our perspective on life, offer us empowerment, teach us how to deal with difficulties, and give us inspiration to find inner strength. My name is Enthoven, and you're now listening to They Survived. This week, we sat down with the incredible Waleed Khan, who at 12 survived the Peshawar school shooting in 2014. He was shot 8 times by the Taliban, 6 times in his face. In this moment of terror, he saw many of his closest friends die. This was a day that changed his whole life, leaving him a long road to recovery and acceptance of the 149 people that lost their lives on this tragic day. Welcome!
Thank you for having me.
So let's start with a little bit of background information. Could you tell me a little bit about yourself, about your childhood, and maybe also more about the political situation at the moment?
So my name is Waleed Khan and I was born in the northern sides of Pakistan, Peshawar, and it's one of the most beautiful parts like in the world, and it's really amazing. Like there's mountains, valleys, and although I was born in city, but my family, my maternal and paternal family, both are from like a valley called Swat, and we migrated down to the cities to get better education and better facilities and everything. So yeah, I mean, I had quite a simple life there. I used to go to school. It was a military school, and because in Pakistan you don't have good education in state schools, so you have to go to like private schools, or like military school was one of the best school systems in Pakistan, where you have to pay if you're a civilian to go there. And my mom and dad, they're really passionate about education, so they wanted to us the best of education, me and my siblings. I've got 4 other siblings. Yeah, so my life back in Peshawar my childhood was quite simple. I used to love cricket. It was a big part of my life, and it's a really popular sport in Asia, and especially in Southeast Asia.
Yes.
And I used to love WWE, like wrestling and everything. And the political situation in Peshawar always have been like a bit on the edge, because in my childhood, although I didn't know that, because I wasn't aware of the surroundings, because I was a kid at that time. So whatever was happening, my parents made sure that we didn't know, because it would create unnecessary fear. And so as I grew up in that region, and as I started becoming aware of the situation and what was happening around me, and the more I got to know about the political situation, and around 2008, 9, and around those times, there was Peshawar was badly affected by terrorism. The Swat Valley as well. There was a time when Swat Valley was completely taken over by Taliban, and they had complete control over it. So then people had to migrate to the cities and towards the south or southeast regions, because there was a military operation going on there. And then they came into Peshawar, they came into the cities, where there would be bomb blasts, and on daily basis. Like it was literally on daily basis. People would die every day. There would be like a bomb blast, and there was a time when people used to live in constant fear. Like there was constant fear. Like if you go outside, then there was a slight chance that you would come back home. And although my parents and my mom, whenever we would go to school, they would always be worried and, always concerned when my dad would go to his, my dad had a small business, so when he would go to his business place, and, so always this tension would be going on that, what's going to happen and are they going to return home safely? And, our school was a military school, and, there was military regiments around us. So, it was giving slight hope to our parents that,
some safe environment.
We are in a safe environment because it's a military school. So there was security and everything. So we are probably in the safest place in the city. So as I told you that I was a toddler at that time. So I was busy in my own life, and I didn't know what was happening around me. I still remember there would be days where, we would be going to school and then there would be a bomb blast or something, and all of a sudden we would get a call from school that don't come to school today because there was a bomb blast on the way, or the route we use is through which we go, like there would be a bomb blast or something. And then, as a kid, you don't think about these things.
This was your normal life.
And we would get happy. Like we'd be like, oh, we're missing school again today. So we would happily go back home. We'd be like, yeah, we're missing school again. So I remember the day when I realized that, that things around me were not going really well was when there was a blast in the city, and there were people in our neighborhood who had lost their I think one of them had lost their brother, and a few of them had lost their family members, and when they were receiving their dead bodies, and I still remember that chaos going around in this neighborhood, that chaos, the people shouting, screaming, crying. And
so there was a lot of chaos and political, like violence.
Yeah, there was a lot of that, because Peshawar was close to the Afghanistan border as well, so that was probably one of the factor as well. And so that day was the day when I really got to realize that things were not really going well around me.
And can you tell us about the day that changed your life forever?
Yeah, it was 16th of December in 2014. At that time, I was in year 8.
How old were you at that point?
I was around 13, 12. So I was in. Yeah. So it was just like a normal day. I got up and I was getting ready for school. I remember on that day that I was feeling slightly unwell, and I was having a bit of fever. So my mom told me that I should stay home, that I shouldn't go in today. And my younger brother at that time, because my older siblings, they had already gone to colleges, so they weren't in school anymore. It was me and my younger brother only. And whenever I would stay home, he would also start crying and that I want to stay home as well. So I didn't want it, all of that, and that's on that day. So I was like, I'll just go to school. I told mom that it's fine, I'm gonna be fine. And when I got to school, me and my friends, we always had this routine in school where we would have breakfast together, because it was a military school. So we would go to school so early in the morning that we wouldn't get a chance to have a breakfast. And even if you do get a chance to have breakfast at that time in the morning, no one really wants a breakfast. So we would always have this. We kind of made it our tradition, like me and my friends, that we would have our own morning breakfast together in the classroom or in the cafeteria. So we would do that always, and we did it on that day as well. And then other people would come and join us, and
sounds lovely to have like a morning routine together.
Yeah, it was. To be honest, my friends were like my second family, because I would spend more time with them than my own family, and they have been friends with me like for 8 years, and for me being a 13-year-old, that was my whole lifetime. So that was so they were my everything, so and then we had our lessons, and 3 days before that, we had a whole week of sports week where we were competing with other schools and, in different competitions. And we had won, like, in basketball, in table tennis, and in cricket. So we on this incident happened on Tuesday, and we got prizes the Friday before that, so a weekend before that. So we were celebrating, and then on Monday again, when we celebrated our victories and we joined, and the whole school was in celebration mode, that we had won almost every competition. So and then on Tuesday our normal lessons started. So no one really wanted to go into lessons. Everyone
a bit
was,
like no.
yeah, everyone was still in that celebration mode, and they didn't really wanted to continue with the normal routine. And so we had a couple of lessons, and then, because I was the head boy, so I was the head prefect of my school at that time, and a teacher came and he asked me that tell all the students to come down to the auditorium for the first aid lecture. And I went to the year 8, year 9, year 10 classes, and I told everyone that there's a first aid lecture going on in the auditorium, and you all have to come downstairs. And as I was going to these classes, and every time I would tell them that each and every section, that I would tell them that there's a first aid lecture in the auditorium, everyone was getting excited, because they were gonna miss lessons. So they were just cheering it, and everyone was like just happily and going to the auditorium. And then in the auditorium, when we went there, like I remember, as I was the head prefect, so I was standing on the stage right next to the it was an army doctor who was giving us the first aid lecture, and I could see my friends sitting behind, making faces, trying to make me laugh, and so all these things were going on. And then the lecture started. As we were halfway through the lecture, all of a sudden there was a loud noise, a loud deafening noise from outside, and for a moment everybody stopped, but then we carried on, because it was a military school, and we had a military regiment next to us, so those kind of noises were kind of normal. So we carried on. We didn't really focus on that thing. All of a sudden those noises started getting louder, and it started getting more consistent. And that's when there was complete silence in the auditorium, and our teachers started whispering to each other, because it was a big auditorium. Like it had like almost 10 doors. Our teachers started locking the doors in the auditorium, and at that time there were around 600 students in the auditorium present. I looked at one of my teachers and I was like, what's happening? And he was like, don't worry, it's nothing. It's just, he didn't say anything. He was just like, just don't worry, it's nothing, it's going to be fine. I could see some of the students, they were just calm, and they were laughing at the other students who were scared, because they didn't think it was something. And I could see half of the students, they were scared because they thought there was something wrong. So it was still a mixed feeling. Like no one was sure what was happening. And then all of a sudden, I saw like two shadows, because auditorium was kind of on the curve. So if it was on the curve, so you could see the back door from the stage, and you could see the backside as well. I saw two shadows at the back door, and it was from a distance, but I saw, and they started kicking the door, and those people started kicking the door, and when they realized that it was locked, they broke it. They broke the door and came inside, and they started shouting and started chanting Allahu Akbar, and they.
What were they saying?
So they were just shouting. They were just saying Allahu Akbar, and then they started firing.
Oh.
They opened fire, and they started shooting everybody. At that time, I was completely lost. I was just in a shock, because I had no idea who these people were. Like none of us had any idea who those people were or what were they doing there. So I was just standing in a shock, and I was confused, and there was so many things going in my mind. I was like, what is happening, and who are these people, and why are they shooting at us? And at first I thought it's a bad dream. I was telling myself that it's a bad dream, just This is not real. And then I saw a few of my friends got shot at the back end, and I was just frozen at that time. I couldn't move. I was just standing still. I couldn't move, and then one of them aimed his gun towards me, and he fired at me, and the first bullet hit me on the face from the left side, and it pierced through my face. And I remember when I got shot, I screamed so loudly that I've never screamed that loud in my life. I don't think so I ever will. And I just fell on the floor, and I tried to put my hand on my face, and as I tried to do that, because my face had opened up, my hand went in my face, and I was in extreme pain, and I still couldn't believe it. My mind, my heart, I wasn't accepting it, and I was like, it was just unacceptable to me at that time. I was like, this is just a bad dream. This is not real, because just a few moments ago I was laughing and having fun with my friends, and all of a sudden they are gone, and now I am going after them. Like, it's just a few minutes, and things have changed so suddenly and so drastically. So it was really, really hard for me at that time to accept that reality, that I was shot, and my friends and schoolmates, all of them were getting shot one by one at that time in the auditorium.
Was there like a sort of eye contact with your friends, or what was the feeling?
So at the time when I got shot, because I didn't make any contact. I couldn't make any contact because my whole focus started getting on like the trauma, and as I was battling with myself at that time, because I was trying to convince myself that this is not the reality.
Mm-hmm.
And with the bullets and everything, after when I got shot, when I looked around and I was still conscious, because there was so much shooting going on. They had hand grenades as well. So there was like smoke all around like the auditorium, so you couldn't see anything clearly after that. And I was still in pain, so I was making noises, and there was a time when there was complete silence in the auditorium, because they were looking for children, like whoever will do a movement or make a noise, they would shoot them again. So they were looking around that whoever is still alive, and I couldn't stop myself from doing that. So I was in extreme pain, and I was making noises, and they came towards me again, and they started shooting me, and they shot me again. And at that time, I didn't know how many times they shot me or what they did, but when they shot me for the second time, I was like, that's it for me. Like, I'm not surviving this anymore. Like, it's gone. All hope is gone. And I don't know why they left me at that time. I still don't know. Maybe they thought that I died already or something, but they left me after they shot me, and I was still conscious. Like, I didn't lose my consciousness, and I was just lying down there and waiting for my eyes to get closed. I was in extreme pain. I was in both physical and mental pain. The physical pain was because of my injuries, but even more unbearable pain was that I had to witness my friend like getting shot in front of my eyes, and then I was going after them all of a sudden, and I was just thinking about my family, my mom and my dad, and I thought that I'm never gonna see them again ever, and I was just lying down there. All these things were going in my mind, and blood was coming out from my face, and it was completely covered in blood, and there were dead bodies around me, and
So,
so all the children like in the auditorium, like they were so, and there was smoke as well, so you couldn't see things clearly. And all of a sudden, when I was lying down there, I heard a few students that I could hear a few students whispering to each other that they are gone to the college wing. It was auditorium was in the middle, and there was a college wing through. There were 4 doors towards the college wing side and 4 doors towards the school wing sides, and around 2 doors at the back side.
So they continued.
They continued to go towards the college side, where there were like senior students that they went after, and they had done what they had to do, I think, in the auditorium. So the students started going towards the school wing. They started running towards the school wing, and at that time, when I was lying down there, I remember I kept telling myself that I'm still alive. I was putting my hand on my face, and I was just trying to like calm myself down and telling myself that you're still breathing. So every time I would put this hand around my mouth, and I'm just gonna tell myself, I would tell myself that you're still alive, you're still breathing, and I saw the students, like I could hear them, and I could see a few of them like running towards the school wing, and I tried to ask for help and tried to move my hands or something just to give them like a hint that just help me. But at that time they all were kids themselves. Everyone was traumatized, and I don't blame them, because it was such a horrible experience that there was no one to help, because everyone was traumatized by what
trying to survive.
Yeah, so when I was just lying down there, I knew that there was no one to help now, and at that time I was really, really fortunate that my senses were still working. I could still see things, I could still hear things, and I tried to help myself, and I tried to stand up with the help of chairs and things around me, so that I could go out, and as I tried to do that, I couldn't stand up, and I started dragging myself. I started crawling and dragging myself out, and
because you were also shot in the legs, that was why you couldn't.
At that time, I didn't know that.
No.
At that time, I didn't know that I was shot in the leg or arm, because I didn't feel that much. My whole focus was on my face.
Yes.
And I thought I was shot on the face, so I wasn't able to do that. There was a classroom around 15 to 10 meters away from the auditorium, from where I was. And I tried to cover that distance, and when I was traveling, like each and every meter of that was like traveling a million miles, because what I had been through, and what was going on around me, and then as I was moving, and I remember some of the students started coming out from the auditorium as well, and they didn't realize that I was in front, lying on the floor, and I was trying to move, so they started running over me and stampede on me. So, and because no one was looking down, and they were just trying to survive, and that really damaged my hands. My wrist was cracked as well because of that. There are some moments that I clearly remember. And that was one of those moments where I was looking outside, so because I was in the corridor, and I was looking outside from that corridor, and there was a tree, and with all the blast and firing going on, the birds were scattering, and they were flying from the tree. And at that time, I remember that I prayed, and I was like, God, I wish I was one of these birds, and I could fly away easily from here. I wasn't giving up, and every time I would face something, I would just put my hand on my mouth, and I would tell myself that you're still breathing.
Yes.
So you still do it, still go on, and give it your best. And as I said, that I was really, really fortunate that for a long time my senses were working, and I could think. That was a big blessing for me, that I could think, and I managed to cover that distance, and I managed to reach outside. There was an Year 7 class, and I managed to reach that. And when I reached its door, I couldn't move anymore because by that time I had lost so much blood, and my eyes started getting closed, and I started getting unconscious. So I couldn't move an inch after that, and so I laid down in front of the door, and I just put my head, and I was just screaming, and just in pain, and just waiting for something to happen, and I was just praying one thing at that time when I was lying by the door. I just prayed for one thing. And I prayed to God. I was like, just for one last time, like, I was like, I know I'm gonna die now, but just for one last time, I just want to see my mother, like, just one last time. If I see her, it's okay if I die now, because I've given it my best, and I tried everything I could. And then after like 10 to 15 minutes, like there were some military men that came in, and because I was outside, I was with the door, so
The terrorists left at that point.
the terrorists were at the college wing side, and
Still
I was
shooting.
I was at the school wing side.
Yes. So the military came at the
School wing
school wing side to
Yeah.
save everybody as fast as possible.
So there was the military tried to. So our school was a massive school. Like
Yes.
it was really, really big. So the military tried to the military took control of the toddlers and the school
Yes.
wing side. And when the terrorists took control of the admin block and the college wing side, but their main target was the auditorium, because
Where
they
the
got,
most children. Yeah. So they found you
yeah.
and they helped you?
They I was the first one they saw, because I was outside.
Were you like still screaming that
Yeah.
they will notice that you're still alive?
Yeah, so I
Yeah.
was still conscious, but as I told you, slowly I was losing my strength. My body wasn't supporting me anymore. So when they picked me up, one of them picked me up on their shoulder, and they took me to the ambulance, and I was still conscious, because I remember all of those things, and I could still, like, see things, but it started getting blurry for me. Like, I still see things. I wasn't able to hear much, and I don't remember that much, but I could see things blurry, and they took me to combined military hospital in Peshawar, and later on, my doctors told me that when I went to the hospital, they put me with the dead bodies, because they had to make a choice that when first
What
of
will
all
be the chance of surviving? Yeah.
so first of all they put me with the dead bodies, and then they had to make a choice when they saw me breathing, because my face was covered with blood, there was blood bubbles coming out from my mouth when I was breathing. So when one of the nurses saw that, fortunately, and she told the doctors that he's still breathing, and the doctors told me that we had to make a choice, either to, like, because there was no chance that you were gonna survive, so either to take you in or just leave you like that, because it was an emergency situation and other casualties were coming in, so they had to take, like, chances with that. And then they said that we just gave it a shot, and I was after that I was unconscious for, like, I was in coma for 8 days, and when I woke up, when I opened my eyes on the 8th day, I tried to run away from the hospital, because I was still in that trauma, and I was covered with, like, all those pipes and wires and everything around me, and bandages, and my face was covered with bandages. So
you're just like like running away.
Yeah, and I tried to run away, and I was trying to hurt myself and remove I had tracheostomy and everything, and with my legs, the hands, the back of my neck, everything there was a lot of injuries.
So how was the how was it for your parents to, like, receive news like this?
So what my dad tells me is that my family found me at night. It was around 10:30 at night time when they found me, They were looking for me everywhere. They were looking in dead bodies, in injured, like
Yes.
they couldn't find me. And it was mostly because of my face as well, as my face was covered with bandages and my body had swollen up because of the injuries. So there were a few times when they went past me, my cousins, but they couldn't recognize me. My dad, according to my dad, when he was having breakfast, he got the news from our van driver that that our school has been attacked by the terrorists. And my dad told him that just get the kids and come home. And the van driver was like, they are still stuck in school, and no one is allowed to go inside. It's chaos in there. Like, my dad, when he heard that, he just he was just shocked. And when my mom saw his face, my mom asked him like, what's happening, what happened? And my dad lied to her because he didn't want to like make her panic or give her the bad news. So my dad told her that they had a small minor accident with the van driver, had a small minor accident, and that's why he called me. And the kids are with him and they're gonna be safe. And then my dad quickly called his brother and our other family members, just to come and help with him. And they all went towards our school. And when they arrived at our school, because no one was allowed in school vicinity, like there was military, and so there were parents, and it was absolute chaos. Every parent wanted to see their children, and they were crying, and they wanted to go inside and just to save their kids. And my younger brother, when he was rescued, he was one of the first ones to get rescued because he was in the toddler section. So they got rescued, fortunately. And when my dad and other family members, when they saw him, they had a bit of relief that now that he's safe. Now I'm gonna be next, and I'm gonna come out safely.
Was
as
he
well.
also shot as well?
No, he came out safely,
yeah.
luckily, yeah. So they were safe. The toddler side,
Okay.
they were safely rescued, and the terrorists couldn't go on that side. And he safely came out. And then my mom saw it on the news because it was all over the news after that, all of a sudden. So she had completely lost it. Like, she just wanted to see me. When she heard about my brother, there was a bit of relief that that I am gonna be coming out anytime soon. And then my dad was waiting outside the school, but he couldn't find me. So he went to the combined military hospital, and he went with my two cousins and other family members and friends to other hospitals, because the whole city on that day was in chaos, and everybody was going to hospitals, to
Looking
the
for their
school,
children.
yeah, looking for their children and family members. And so they were looking for me. And they were just my dad, he was looking in combined military hospital. He went to look in amongst the people who were injured. So he couldn't find me there. And then he tells me that there was a time when when in hospital there was someone announced that there is more injured students coming in the lawn. They are in the lawn, like downstairs, and you should check your children's there. And my dad said that when we went there, it was all dead bodies. It was all coming, like they weren't bandaged at that time because they just arrived. And he started looking for me in them. He fainted twice when he was looking for me in the dead bodies. And but he still continued. And every parent continued. And then they started taking the names of the children who lost their lives. And my dad was standing there and just praying and hoping that my name is not on the list. And then there was a time when the military ended their operation. Like the terrorists were neutralized, and the operation ended. Like, it was around 8 in the night. And
They shot the terrorist, or what did they?
So a few of them. So there was some of them were like all of them were wearing suicide bomb vests.
Oh, so they ended their life as...
Yeah, so some of them ended their life and, blow themselves up, try to get more casualties, and some of them were shot. Even when that ended and, there was students that were hostages, they were even rescued and everything.
Mhm.
And my family and that they still couldn't find me and they're still looking for me. And it was night time and, it was 10:30 at night, and my dad at that time was just exhausted, and there was a doctor that he spoke to, and he told him about the situation, that that he was looking for me and he couldn't find me anywhere. And then the doctor told him that we had early casualties that came in the morning, and they are in the ICU. There is 9 children in the ICU, students who are in critical condition. You should check in there. And my dad, he couldn't do it himself anymore after going through so much. So he sent in my cousins to look for me in the ICU. And when they were looking around the ICU, they came out and told my dad that we couldn't find him. And then my dad was like, "No, I'm gonna check myself just to confirm." And when he was looking around, and I was on number 8. There were 9 students. When he recognized me from my waist that I was wearing my shirt, it was as I told you, the day when we were getting prizes on Friday, he gave me one of his shirts because it was really cold, and I was really excited to just go out and just go to school. So he was like, "Wear something, it's really cold outside," and I was just in a hurry, so he just threw his shirt to me, and I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna wear that."
So at that moment, he knew there's a chance you will survive.
I mean, he was confirmed because he recognized that shirt. That was his shirt, so he recognized it, and he just sat on the floor, and it was because at that time my condition was very, very critical. I think for a week, like, and it was like until like the 8th day, most of my family members, they were still in doubt that it was me. Because my face had swollen up and my body, and they said that he was really small and he's really young, so how is his body like, so like buffed up right now. And
how many times have you been shot?
So I was told by my doctors that I was shot 8 times. Yeah. So it was around 6 times on my face and my leg and my arm. One.
It's a miracle that the bullet didn't hit any vital organs or...
Yeah, I mean, it was, even my doctors still says it, like, they always used to tell me that your survival is a miracle, like, because one of the bullets, it nearly, I still have a scar at the back of my head. It just touched my head, but it didn't went through. It just touched my head, and luckily I didn't lose my vision or anything. I mean, it did a lot of damage to my face. My maxilla was completely broken, and
you don't see it then.
Yeah.
Like, they did a lot of surgeries.
Yeah, I've had like 15 surgeries so far.
Oh.
So
but they did a really good job because you don't see anything really in your face. I don't know how you feel, like if you're having some complications.
Yeah, I mean, my doctors and everyone in here and there, they did an absolute amazing job for my facial reconstruction. And I still don't have my upper teeth and still have, like, the base of my nose is broken, so I still have some work pending in there. But it's a lot better now, and I'm just grateful to them, for everything they did for me.
Were you, the days and weeks and years after, how was it? I can imagine that you so traumatized.
In the starting days, as I told you, like, I at that time I saw a few of my friends getting shot, but I didn't know about all of them. So I lost all my best friends, and I saw only a couple of them, but I thought that all the other ones, and they would have survived, and I was always hoping that And in the starting days, I wasn't allowed to use like social media or watch news or anything because my doctor will restrain me from that. And my parents, like there would be somebody every time with me, either a nurse or one of the family members, and they would just keep a check on me so that I don't look around. And I always had a doubt that something was wrong, but I didn't know that it was to that extent. So I remember that one of my friend's brother, my best friend brother, his elder brother, he came to see me in hospital. I asked him about my friend. His name was Uzair. I was like, why is Uzair, like we called him Uzi? I'm like, why is he not with you? I was like, why didn't he come? I got a little upset because I was like, why is my best friend not coming to see me? And he was like, oh no, he was just a little busy in his work and he would soon come and meet you. And he was just making those excuses. And
why would they? To make it not too hard for you?
Yeah, because I was already in a trauma.
Yeah.
And I tried to, as I told you, I tried to run away from hospital. So my doctors had to tie my hands with bandages. I was so traumatized. And
so
then
shock.
Yeah, and then they had to bring in my family members so that I feel safe and I see familiar faces. So I calmed down. But at that time, I mean, it's a lot better now. But at that time, every time I would be looking at the door because that trauma of like someone coming through the door, like whoever would come through the door, like it would just it would just bamboozle me. And I was always like doubting people, whoever, like whenever I would see a stranger, I would get scared. There would always be someone with me, like just to calm me down. So it was, and I couldn't sleep. I wouldn't be able to sleep without sleeping pills or injections because
you had nightmares.
Nightmares and the pain and nightmares both. So it was
so much for a boy of 13 years old.
Yeah, and the worst was yet to come when it was after a month that I was shifted from ICU to a room, and one day I got a chance to be alone in the room and there was no one with me. And so I started searching on Facebook about the incident and everything. And as I looked it up, I saw pictures of my best friends and teachers who had lost their lives. And I was in a complete shock again. And I couldn't believe it. I looked it up again. I was like, no, this is a lie. This is the wrong pictures. And I looked it up again, and I saw Uzair in that as well. And I was like, no, his brother told me that he's busy and he that's why he didn't come and meet me. And again, as I went through the list, and all of their names were there, and as I was reading those names, my heart was sinking and sinking, and I just broke down at that moment, and I crying, and I couldn't take it anymore. I was in complete tears, and it was just like my life was like, I had lost all hope for life. Like there was that survival guilt as well. I was like, if my friends couldn't survive, what was the point of me surviving then? And there was more and more pain for me. And then my mom suddenly came in and she saw me crying, and then I told her I was a bit angry as well. I was like, why didn't you guys tell me before? Like, why did you hide it from me? And she also cried a bit with me, and then at that time she told me something that really like motivated me and changed things around for me. She sat down with me and she told me, what will happen if you cry now, or if you just lose hope right now? Will your friends come back with that? Would anything change? Would you be able to change what has happened to you? I was like, no. So she was like, why don't you just get well soon? Get up, stand up on your feet, and do something for your friends that you have lost. And I mean, it was just simple words.
Heartbreaking, yeah.
Yeah, and at that time, those simple words really, really like motivated me. And after that, I just continued my journey. And
How many children had lost their life?
around 132. Yeah, 132 children had lost their lives in that incident.
I'm thinking of all the parents like looking for their kids and seeing them. It's, I don't know, it's unbelievable. It's
although there were like blast and terrorist activities before as well in Pakistan, but that was like the most tragic thing ever happened in the history of the country, and everyone was mourning and everyone was in shock. And I had my best friend. They were two children of their parents, him and his brother, and they both lost their lives in the incident. When my friends who had lost their lives, when their parents would come to meet me, or their family members would come to meet me, that would be the most hard time for me. Those moments were the most hardest times for me. I know I was a kid at that time, but it was still hard for me to face them. I couldn't, and they would motivate me. They would tell me things. They would encourage me, and they would look at me like they were looking at their kids. So trying to find their kid in me.
Yes.
And his memories, and when they would come and they would ask me about it, they'd come to meet me in hospital and ask me to tell them their stories and everything. So yeah, I mean, those were like the hardest times of my life.
Looking back at all of this, like this near-death experience and all the surgeries and the recovery time, yeah, what is like the biggest lessons it's taught you?
You don't realize, like, the first like personal lessons was like, like this. Sometimes you don't realize how strong you are or how determined you are until you go through something like that. And I mean, it does give you pain and agony, but it gives you something more than that, and that is strength and determination. I learned a lot more about me from this incident, and one of the most valuable lessons that I learned was the value of education. Because we were shot because we were getting education, and those living in the darkness, the terrorist organizations or the terrorists that are living in the darkness, one thing was clear, that they fear this thing. They fear education. I mean, you can bomb them, you can shoot them, but that's not gonna end terrorism. Education is gonna end terrorism, because education targets their ideology. It was the only thing that could uproot them. So it made me realize of what I was taking for granted, or any young person like me was taking for granted, the value of education, and then the value of life itself. When you go through such experiences, you value life more. I always say this, that the one thing that has this incident changed in me was, before this I wanted to live for myself. Now I want to live for others, and it did bring that change in me. And when you face such tragic events in life, then whatever hurdles come in your life, you don't really fear them anymore, because you know that you've been through the worst, so you're gonna go through that as well.
After this, you were trying to rebuild your life. You went to the UK, and tell us a little bit more about that.
The first time I came here was, I was without my mom and my family. I was only with my dad. So
what was the reason to coming to the UK?
For my treatment. So,
of course, yeah.
Yeah, so I had to come in for further treatment, and things weren't really safe for me in there as well. So So when I came here, it was a whole new world for me. And I mean, in the starting days, I spent most of my time in hospital, because that's where I was for a long time, and I didn't really socialize outside much. But the doctors and the nurses, the staff members, everyone was incredibly nice to me and really supportive. The way they supported me at that time was, I'm forever grateful to them for that. I think there was a time when I wanted to go back to school when I slightly recovered and I had gap between my surgeries. So I wanted to go to school here, and I asked Malala's father, because he's my mentor as well. So they had been through similar experience as well.
Yes.
So they were really nice and kind and always supportive to me. And I asked him that I wanted to join school here, and then he knew somebody, and he asked them, and I joined a school here, like the University of Birmingham school. At first I joined it as a guest student, because it wasn't the term time when I joined. It was in around April, so September is normally the start. So I joined them as a guest student, and everybody there was incredibly welcoming. And I was really nervous as well, because this was a whole new world for me, new people, and away from family, from my own country, different culture. So it was completely starting from point zero for me. And the thing was is that everybody was really, really supportive, from students to teachers, and I made some friends for life that are still my best friends.
That's amazing.
And yeah, I mean, I never imagined that I would ever do that again, because when this incident happened, like almost for a year or two, I was really antisocial, because I didn't want to make any new friends. I didn't want to socialize with anyone.
Afraid of losing them.
Yeah,
again.
it was that fear of losing them, or again going through that pain again.
I understand. Have you ever been back to the place of the incident in the school?
I thought about it, but I couldn't. And maybe someday, but it's
too soon, maybe.
Yeah, it was the hardest thing for me to look at it, even when I come across the pictures. I mean, mentally, I have recovered a lot from that incident. Like, I still have a bit of PTSD, but I still have nightmares, and that's something that I think would stay with me for the rest of my life. But I have made great progress, and it's not as worst as it was in the start. And with time, as they say, time is the best healer. And with the help of friends and family, as you get involved more in life, I started coming back to life. But going back there, or just thinking about it, I still think there's a lot of time in that for me to recover from that.
How many years now is it ago?
It happened in 2014, so it's probably around nine years now.
Yes. What would be like your lessons you've learned to the listeners?
One of the biggest lessons was that I've learned from life is, as I mentioned earlier, was the value of life. No matter whatever happens in your life, it's okay to cry sometimes. Crying doesn't make you weak. It's okay to be sad. It doesn't mean that you're weak or you've lost hope. But it's never okay to give up. If you don't give up, and if there is will, as they say, if there is will, there's always a way. And and I have experienced that personally. Like there were moments in my life where I had lost complete hope. I had hit rock bottom. But sometimes when those things happen, you just shouldn't give up. And and if you have hope, there will always be light at the end of the tunnel. So, you know, there's always have hope, always hope for the best. And secondly, I would say the value of education, especially for kids here, you know, education is not just only about getting a degree or, you know, doing STEM subjects, you know, or, you know, education is your mindset, you know, your ideology, the way you look at life, your perspective, your perception of things. And, you know, with education, the more you started getting aware of things, you know, you started developing empathy for people and, you know, kindness. And, you know, there's other many great character virtues that you develop over time. So never ever take education or the opportunities that the kids have in these countries, you know, the developed countries like the European countries or America. I mean,
never take it for granted.
Yeah, some of the kids, you know, they do tend to sometimes take it for granted. But, you know, if you look at outside the world, like, I mean, look at Afghanistan right now. Girls' education is banned there, and, you know, they're striving to get into school, but they're not allowed to get into school. And there is many other countries like that where children are suffering, people are suffering. So, you know, whenever you have these opportunities, whenever you have these opportunities available to you, always make the best use of it. Make yourself useful for yourself and for the world.
Oh, your story and your words are so inspiring and motivating. I would thank you big time.
Thank you so much for having me. It was nice talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for listening to They Survived. Let us know what you think of this episode. If you're inspired by this unique and extraordinary survival story, please follow or subscribe to our podcast and check out our social media for more stories like these. Until next time, take care and don't miss the next episode.
I suddenly realised, yeah, that is what I think it is. It's flame or fire emanating from the front of the aircraft. It's, Jesus, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And all I was thinking is, got to get this aircraft down, got to get it down. And all of a sudden, an almighty explosion with a boom. I was 63, so 63% third and fourth degree burns. For fuck's sake, just put me out of my misery and let me go. I'm not going to make it anyway, and you know damn well I'm not going to make it. And I just couldn't believe it. I just was absolutely dumbfounded, awestruck that I'd actually survived.